Hi everyone, and welcome to the second Backend Fundamental video. My name is Tristan, and in this video we're going to be going over what a Flask server is. So here's an outline of what we're going to be covering in this video. First, I'll be going over the entire project structure, both the front end and back end, to help give you a better idea of how everything fits together. Next, I'll be going over what a NoSQL database is at a very high level and how we'll use it in our project. And finally, I'll be showing you how all of the different components of a Flask server fit together. So starting from the left here, the user will interact with the front end by clicking on something on the page. The React front end, which is hosted on GitHub Pages, will then call a REST API to the Flask Server backend. The Flask Server backend will be hosted on Heroku and will then query the NoSQL database on MongoDB Atlas. As you can see, the front end and backend will be hosted in different locations, specifically GitHub Pages and Heroku. Make sure to keep this in mind for later. Since this series is on the backend, we'll be focusing on the last two items here. The nice part about designing our project into completely separate components like this is so that we can make the backend without having to worry too much about the front end at the same time. Now I'd like to briefly talk about what a NoSQL database is. A NoSQL database can be thought of as a big Python dictionary that is stored in the cloud, in our case. On the right here, you can see a screenshot from the online interface for our Mongo NoSQL database, stored on MongoDB Atlas. Collections are a term used by MongoDB to help organize different types of documents. In this case, we have a user collection right here. Then, within each collection, we have documents, and each document has a unique object ID, as you can see here. Right now we only have one collection user, but during the ZotHacks workshop, we'll be adding a second collection for stocks. So first, I want to talk about what is Flask. Flask is a web framework written in Python. It allows us to create a REST API that the front end will then use to retrieve information. Then, on the left we have here, environmental variables. This can be seen as a type of config file, which allows us to easily swap out values for variables within our server. Below that we have CORS. CORS stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. This allows restricted resources on a web page to be requested from another domain outside of the domain from which the first request was served. Without setting this up, our front end would not be able to use our backend API since they're using different domains. Remember how one is hosted on GitHub Pages and the other is hosted on Heroku? After that, we have our Mongo Atlas database, which is where we will be storing all of our resources. And finally, the API resource themselves, which in this case we only have one user. This is where all of the logic will be stored for each of the different types of requests, get, post, etc. So this is a basic layout or overview of how our Flask server will be laid out. In the next video, we'll be taking a look at exactly what code is required to make sure that this all gets implemented correctly.